This is a really full weekend for us and our family because we didn't get to do Christmas earlier. So this weekend was like Christmas and Valentine's. It's like the one time in the semester I'm going to preach. So it's a lot, and there's a lot going on. So if you will help me by centering myself, we'll pray together and get started. Would this be a work that at the end you would say, well done? And will you do a work in us all, that in the end of all things you will look upon us and say, well done. Amen. So this is a fun little sermon, particularly because I'm a manuscript preacher and I only have bullet points on my page today. So get excited. I'm anxious. We're going to start at the end, the very end. And I don't mean like, the end of the sermon, but that will be the point too. But I mean like the end, like the kingdom of God, the end of times, whatever this kingdom thing is going to look like, nobody really knows. But there's a few hints in the scriptures, especially today, that are going to be unpacked that maybe we'll get a sight. But what you need to know about the end of where we're starting is that in the kingdom of God, there is a radical reversal of roles. Everything that we just heard, everything we read, is about roles being reversed. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But Luke likes to do this a lot. It's in the very beginning, in Mary's Magnificat. She sings, Gabriel Angel has said, you're going to have a child. She sings this song. It's beautiful and wonderful. She says, his mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm. God has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. God has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. You're hearing this radical reversal of lows, bringing down, lifting up. God has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. God has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of God's mercy. Additionally, we get the story of the rich man and Lazarus, and they have a little interaction while they're still breathing, and then they're not breathing, and then they have another interaction where the rich man is with Jesus, and Lazarus the rich man's not with Jesus. Lazarus is with Jesus in the kingdom, whatever that looks like. And the rich man looks out across, doesn't say down or up, across, and says, help me. And they just kind of oddly walk off, I think. But there's the radical reversal of roles again. And then what we just read today, blessed are you who are poor, who are hungry, who are hated, and woe to you who are rich, full, and well-liked. I took great pause with the full part because we ate a ton yesterday. Like we cooked a full breakfast as a family, and we had this cool lunch where there were hot wings at this restaurant, which I love wings. And then we had tacos for dinner, and I woke up this morning still full. And then I remembered the text and was like, whoa, still full. So the point is, Luke really wants us to know about this kingdom of God thing, and there's this role reversal that's really radical, like really. So, and we're given evidence of this when we look at Jeremiah. We have this cherry blossom in our front yard, and it is on its way out, and it's really sad. And probably a branch a couple years ago, big branch, fell. So like there's a fifth of the tree missing now, but it's hanging on for dear life. It blooms really early, and then, man, the leaves are gone by, August, and it's dead again. It's kind of our favorite tree in our front yard. And similarly, I start thinking about this Jeremiah passage where there are these, do we have the images? There are these bushes that grow in the desert, and they are, yes, here we go. You can see they're just gone. They're done. Their roots are in dry soil. And Jeremiah is bringing this out, saying, if you're going to put your roots in dry soil, this is what it's going to look like. And not that our soil is bad in our front yard, but our tree's nearing the end of its life. And so we're watching this, the tragedy is the point, is that there's an utter, distinct tragedy to roots in dry soil and the participation of sin and death and sorrow. And especially when we juxtapose it against this image, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the tragedy, of course, is what leads us towards lifelessness. And Jeremiah says, God's like, cursed. Cursed is the one who trusts in their own strength, who puts their roots down in dry soil. And that's it. You're just cursed. It's done. You have lifelessness. It's tragic and it's over. However, there's an alternative where which you might put your roots down next to water. And this picture was striking enough because I had to learn about what a water table was again. That was like third grade geography. And underneath the ground is this water table, and underneath that is the aquifer. And then the water table stays fairly saturated, through which plants draw up the water to grow and all those kinds of things. That in the midst of this asphalt, in the midst of a concrete structure, an impenetrable system, there comes life from the water table, the deep rivers running underground, upon which our roots draw life. So here's Jeremiah, right, calling forward. So if you put your roots next to the stream, you're going to bear fruit. You're not just going to bear fruit, when it's rainy. You're not going to be even concerned when there's a blacktop sitting on top of your face. When there's systems of oppression pushing down, you're going to bear fruit. You're going to blossom. The pureness of your roots will come forward in the blossom of your life because your roots are drawing on the fresh, infinite water tables of God. So I have a little caveat for this example that's going to come up. Raise your hand if you know who John C. Calhoun is. He's a terrible individual. He's this very extreme example we're going to bring up. And then we're going to talk about Howard Thurman here in a minute and reflection and when God shows you your whole self in the mystic encounter. But we're going to imagine what could have happened with this extreme example and then take apart how we apply a mystic encounter to ourselves. So I'm going to read you something from Calhoun. He gives an address to Congress. He's anti-abolitionist. And here's an excerpt of his address. But let me not be understood as admitting, even by implication, that these existing relations between two races in the slaveholding states is an evil. Far otherwise, I hold it to be a good, as it has thus far proven itself to be both and will continue to prove so, if not disturbed by the fell spirit of abolition. I appeal to facts. Here it is, you ready? Never before has the black race of Central Africa, from the dawn of history to the present day, attained a condition so civilized and so improved, not only physically, but morally and intellectually. I feel like you should go shower, wash all that off. It's disgusting. The arrogance that effuses from these words, it flows forth. It's not the kind of water upon which, Jeremiah is talking where you get your roots in the stream of life. It's drawing on one's own strength. The text itself says the flesh of one's arm. That is your own literal strength. That's arrogance. This is Calhoun. It's embedded in the ego. It's becoming so dependent upon the self that there is a will, the desire, the seed of the heart, right? To cut down the trees of black and brown bodies and to tear them apart and use them for utility. It is the creation of a colonial I am. When Moses is in the desert and there's this flaming bush, right? And he says, well, who should I say sent me? And God goes, tell them I am. Calhoun sets up a colonial I am, one that looks like a white man. And he says, look what we did, how good we are. We did this amazing thing with the folks from Africa, right? He plays it down, how good. And it can't be bad because we did it and it was good and what we did was good. And this is what happens when the good old white boys put down roots in dry soil, thinking that they're the source of goodness. We. And God starts to look like us. Morality starts to look like us. We even get to shape the way the world sees, convince people of their unworthiness. And this happens not only in race, but gender, ethnicity, sexuality. Name your identity. So here comes this guy named Paul Tillich. And Tillich's really fascinating because he's going to say something along the lines of, well, nationalism is a problem. Mind you, he's seen both world wars. So is Howard Thurman. We'll get to him in a minute. He says nationalism is a problem because what he's got is this idea of an ultimate concern, what we might call meaning making. If you've ever been in higher education as a student in the last, 5 years, you've heard this phrase, meaning. How are you going to make meaning in the world? What are you going to put your trust in so much that it's what you're going to do with your life in the world, right? Meaning making. What is that ultimate concern you've got, says Paul Tillich. And Paul Tillich says nationalism is not a great answer. White nationalism is not a great answer. Alt-right movements are not a great answer, right? Very extreme example. But the question is begged of us because God's a big God and covers white nationalists and covers us and covers, so on and so forth along the whole spectrum of life. What is the question? It is, who are you? The ground of being, the ground of our being, pops forward and says, no, you don't get to ask who I am. I'm asking you, who are you? What is your ultimate concern? Back in the text, Jeremiah is writing, right? He's saying, well, there was this god, Baal, and the people, they were really infatuated with that god, and it wasn't God, it was this Baal god, and they started to form their nation around it. They started to see the world around themselves through the lens of Baal. They started to shape their rituals and practices from one thing to another, and they had turned away. They were seeing the world differently. Same thing with Calhoun, right? There's this God, and there's this white nationalism, and there's this freedom that Thurman's going to talk about, and there's this slavery, and he changes the way he sees intentionally so that God maybe looks like Baal, maybe looks like a white man. God looks the way we want God to look. And out from that comes the question from the ground of our being, who are you? And what is your ultimate concern? Howard Thurman invites vulnerability. He invites us to begin to answer that question in what is called the mystic or religious encounter, where God shows up and begins to show you and I just exactly who we are. Now, I don't imagine anyone in this room is John C. Calhoun. I don't imagine anyone in this room is from Judah worshiping Baal, right? But I do imagine everyone in this room has something about themselves, including myself, we're not entirely proud of, where the pinprick of our consciousness and our conscience directs us towards the altar in submission and obedience, saying, I'm in need of grace. Maybe just a little bit more grace too, because I know my measuring stick's a little bit off. And so Thurman writes, freedom under God, having been shown our whole selves, is the recognition of the essential dignity of everyone, including ourselves. That's movement number one. Freedom under God means the recognition, seeing, right? The essential dignity of everyone. Movement two. Religious significance of freedom under God is at once primary and fundamental. That is, there's a participation in the rituals and the community that we do. That if we miss out on those things, we miss out on the structures of freedom through which grace can flow. It means that a person is not free to initiate or to involve themselves, Thurman continues, in the evil enterprise. That is, any effort to subjugate another, to become a means to one's own end that denies the worth of another, to create a utility out of someone, to rip them up from the ground and shred their roots and bring them across an ocean for one's own purposes. Movement three. However, the Christian view insists that ultimately the evil enterprise will not be sustained by life for the simple reason that it is against life. That what is against life will be destroyed by life. For what is against life is against God. And Jeremiah's got his back. It's right there in the text, wherever it is. What does he say? Do we have it on the... That's the Thurman reading. Wait for it. I, the Lord, have put a curse on those who turn from me and trust in human strength, who put their roots down in the desert rather than next to my water. Jeremiah's got his back. Anything against life is against God. So whatever works against life works against God. It's right there. And this stream with water flowing by a tree with its roots will cause life and fruit even in the driest seasons, even in the year of the drought. There will always be that water table flowing underneath, providing life to push through systems of oppression. There's this guy named Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm a big fan. He's a monk, Buddhist monk in the Plum Village, France. I think France. And he talks a lot about compassion, as you can imagine. And he talks in this one chapter of a book called Fear, where we start to grow seeds together. And which seeds we nurture together have an impact. And whether we are to grow seeds of anger and frustration might only come from our own strength. But if we offer the opportunity to ourselves to grow seeds of compassion alongside, not instead of, but alongside seeds of anger and sorrow, we might find that there's a source of life, a water table residing underneath that goes deep and infinite and is unending and will always provide life. So we come back to the end, right? Mary's Magnificat. God has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. The rich man and Lazarus seeing across the expanse, calling out for relief. Help me. And finally, those blessings for those who are poor, hungry, and hated. The radical reversal of roles is about those whose roots grow deep next to the water and those whose roots rely on their own strength. I'm going to throw out just one more concept and finish up with a poem. Understand there's this guy named Jesus, and he has some things to say in a sermon where he says, "You may have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemies. But I say, love your neighbor and pray for your enemies." There are times where this religious encounter causes a bit of a vulnerable moment where we have to accept that there are things about ourselves we don't like, that there are times we have to grow, and that we may listen to Paul, who says there's this old self and this new self. And what do I do with them? They're really confusing, and I don't want to do the things that my flesh does, but I do them anyway, and I'm really mad about it. And we make an enemy out of the old self, and Jesus says, no. Love your neighbor and pray for your enemies, even your old self. So in encountering the fullness of yourself as it's revealed to you, love yourself. Grow seeds of compassion alongside seeds of anger within yourself. That kind of transformation comes from roots dug deep in the waters. Thurman, at the end of his sermon that we read a bit of on freedom, leaves us with a poem that I'd like to leave you with that I think ties it all together. It's from Rabindranath Tagore. Probably butchered that, and I'm really sorry. And I think it's what Thich Nhat Hanh and Paul Tillich and Howard Thurman, all working together with their ideas, have to say. So here it is. When the mind is without fear and the head is held high, when knowledge is free, when the world has not been broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls, when words come out of the depths of truth, when tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, when the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert, sand of dead habit, when the mind is free and led forward into thee, into ever-widening thought and action, that freedom, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country wake. Amen.